Consuming fire, consuming fire. Consuming fire. Oh, Father, consume me. You can use me, breathe life into me. Here on this altar, Father, consume me. You can use me, breathe life into me. Here on this altar, so Father, consume me. You can use me, breathe life into me. Here on this altar, and Father, consume me. Oh, use me and breathe life into me. Hey, here on this, Father, you can use me. Breathe life into me. Here on this altar. Here on this altar. Here on this altar. Here on this altar, I lift up my hand. Here on this altar, I lift up my hand. Here on this altar, and I yield my heart. Hey, here on this altar, I yield my heart. Yeah, here on this altar, oh, and I lift my hands. Here on this altar, and I lift my hands. Here on this altar, so Lord, use my hands. Here on this altar, Lord, use my hands. To be regulated here on this altar, my soul renewal here on this altar, 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 right here, Lord, here on this altar, here on this altar. Right here, Lord, here on this altar, 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 here I am. Here I am. Here I am. I am the sacrifice. Here I am. 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 I just want to invite everyone who's willing And everyone who's able to find a space for like both of your knees here. If you're able, just find a space to kneel.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry, Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
Mother Georgia, she's back on live, the historic 980 WDDO. All of a sudden, let's go live into the studio with our host, Brenda Sutton.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey.
I'd just like to tell our listening audience, prepare yourselves today.
Well, welcome you guys. How you doing today, Brenda?
Hey, how you doing? I'm trying to reach out to Henry to tell him to go to the door and let the Instacart lady in.
Oh my goodness. Well, today is Monday, July 3rd, 2023. It has been a crazy weekend, but a good weekend. How was y'all's weekend?
Oh, mine was great.
And mine was not crazy.
It was not crazy. Okay, well, good for you. Good for you. Did y'all have a good turnout at Grant's
It
Yeah.
was
for
fantastic.
your Sunday night? Okay, awesome, awesome.
Yeah, Brenda.
What?
Brenda, were
What?
you there?
Right, so about
Yeah.
You know what? I'm trying. You know what? See, for all our listeners out there, y'all know that Henry is still. He's sick, and we had some trouble in the house because it was like raining really, really hard. It has been for the last
several weeks,
oh
really.
yeah, like several weeks. You know, for all these people out there singing these gospel songs, Lord, let it rain on me and all of that. I'm just like, y'all need to hold up on that. You know what? You know them songs, Jenna, they be talking about rain down on me and all of that. If you're listening, be sure.
Rain down on me. Rain down on me.
Yeah,
That.
we need to let this.
Singing it.
All
All right.
And it has rained on me. So anyway, the sump pumps went out.
The what pumps?
Sump pumps.
Sump pumps. No, what is that?
Sump pumps pump the water out your house. If you're like on a hill or something like that to keep the house from flooding,
okay.
Then I didn't know what they were. When we were little growing up, our house was like on bricks, so it didn't matter. I lived on Forest Avenue. We used to have something called under the house. It wasn't a basement; it was under the house because it was dirt. It was dirt and bricks down there. So, we didn't have trouble with it, but now that Henry's office is downstairs or whatever, we have that. We have to like keep the water pumped out, so the water keeps coming. Keeps coming even after the rain. And and my silly self, I was like, well, where does the water go? Where does wastewater go? So it hit me that it soaks in the ground and continues flowing. So if you don't have
the sump
pump set up or some type of pump in your basement,
I thought it was the septic pump.
the septic pump is
What is the other pump you just said?
Sump
pump.
Okay. SUMP.
Correct.
And a septic septic system is something different.
But can you say sump pump like 10 times in a row real fast?
No, but we know what the septic tank is, which is where I'm going to throw you with all that foolishness.
I'm just saying. Listen, please, everybody, call us. We are live. We are not AI at the moment. We are actually people here, and we're live. And call us at 478-250-1444. 478-250-1444. Call us, please.
And it just put us something in the message area to let us know that you're listening, because
Message area of what?
If they're on Facebook, they've got the comments.
Oh, so some of the people might not know, so they can go on Facebook?
Yeah, they can go on Facebook. And
where do they have to go, Miss Brenda?
They can go to the All of a Sudden page, All of a Sudden radio page.
Yeah, it streams
and it's
live.
not SUDDN, it's SUTTON.
SUTTON, and we're right there. And
they can also go to the Glory WDDO 980 Facebook page.
That's right.
And it airs directly from there as well. So it's a couple of different places that they can watch us live.
And then just like you tag, I put it on my own personal page, so all of my good friends that are listening, hey Reginald,
hey Reggie,
I wonder where you were. What's up?
What's up, Reggie?
And you can go, I can put it on my page and stuff like that. So but it's been, let me tell you something. You can't do nothing but respect God with this weather, okay? How about the lightning struck the people's house across the street and knocked out they have like 2 floors, knocked out that second floor and everything. I mean, all the electricity, they have the chandelier hanging in the, in the foyer and knocked all that out. So it was pretty bad. And and she said she's been smelling smoke. I'm like, oh, okay. I ain't trying to do it though. I was just like, Lord, it was raining so bad and thundering and lightning and stuff. I was just like, I said a prayer last night, Lord, protect me. And it did knocked out my cable.
How did that go with the prayer thing?
Oh, well, he protected me because the sump pumps went out and it didn't flood downstairs. So I'm praising God for that.
I'm just saying, you said it like you don't normally pray.
Well, I pray, but I don't usually pray like that I call it like this is like, Lord, keep, protect me from the weather, like that. I normally don't ask God for stuff like that. I pray and I'm thankful to God for what God does for me. I don't do that transactional prayer.
Okay.
I just and one day we'll talk about that. I got a real problem with when the praises go, the blessing go, all that right there. Why you got to you just what? I don't even want to talk about that because John, I be done got the headache and they be done got me off the radio because that bothers me.
Okay, well, let's not talk about it then.
We won't talk about
Let's not go off on a tangent just yet.
Yeah, because anyway, Big Hen is doing better and want to thank everybody for their prayers. And
yes,
to my cousins that are listening down there in Sandersville, I know this was a very difficult day for the Sutton Blackshear family down in Sandersville. A big shout out to Wheel of Funeral Home for taking good care of my aunt and my family, to Ann Sutton, Pat Sutton, Judy Sutton, Blackshear. Johnny, them probably some of your peoples too now.
I do think that there are some Blackshears in my family in Sandersville, Tennell, and Oconee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was down there yesterday and they said, "Oh, we just love your show." You know what? See, their original just a prayer of Thanksgiving. That's what I'm talking about right there. So I said, well, we're gonna give you a shout out. I have a joke, but I can't say it because it'd be in such poor taste because they just had a funeral.
Well, don't say it then.
But
she's gonna say it.
Hey, Helen.
Hey, Helen is one of my friends from Pelham, Georgia.
Pelham, where is that?
Helen, you know what? I ain't gonna let them go off on you.
I just asked where it's at. I've never heard of Pelham, Georgia.
Pelham, Georgia's down in South Georgia.
Oh, okay.
It's in the country. It's near what is it? Mitchell County. She'll tell me what it is. I think it's Mitchell County. But I found it. You know how I found it? By the water tower. Because you know how they be having the big water towers up there? They had a big water tower with a name wrote on it. Because they don't have a little sign when you come inside the city. They just got the name wrote on the water tower, so you'll know where you're going.
Right.
That's how they do down there in Pelham.
Pelham, Pelham is the home of the very first shopping mall.
No, it ain't. What kind of that? You know what, Johnny?
The hand trading company business.
What kind, Johnny? I don't even want to ask.
I'm serious.
What?
Pelham is the home of the first shopping mall.
And how many stores was it? 2?
I don't know that. Helen. See?
You know what, Helen? I know you trying to take up for Johnny. Don't take up for Mr. HOLINGSHED.
Helen. Am I correct about Pelham being the first, having the first shopping mall?
I don't know what.
I agree with Brenda. It probably had about 2-3 stores.
I ain't kidding. How they get there, by horse? Well, you know what? I didn't tell you. I had a good weekend. I've been watching. I had kind of a good weekend.
See how she did you, Helen?
Helen, Helen, my girl. Though.
Helen, Pelham has a population of 3,416 people.
Oh, that's about like Pleasant Hill, ain't it? Helen, I couldn't resist the joke. But you know what? Some of the sweetest people you want to find though are down there.
Really?
Yeah. They're just real. I mean, I'm going to say Mitchell County has some of the sweetest people.
Is it a predominantly black county or is it mixed?
I'm not sure. I know a lot of good black
people. It's 69%. It's 63% African Americans, 35% white, 0.91% native, and no Indians chose to live there.
By the way, what percentage? You said what percentage?
What percentage run the government? I wonder.
I don't know. Helen will have to tell us that. But that's for another show. We can talk about it. But I'm glad to see you, and Reginald. I'm always glad to see him.
Yes.
Where's Steve at?
He'll probably. Well, it is the holiday weekend,
He's
so.
barbecuing.
Oh, hey. Me and Henry not fooling with this holiday right here.
Yeah, well, we know.
Cause we did Juneteenth.
I know. We know.
Okay.
We ain't
y'all all of a suddeners wanted to jump on Juneteenth when the government told y'all it was all right. But some of us been celebrating Juneteenth for years and years and years.
That's right.
We'll table that topic for another day. So today
What's up? What's up?
Today, I'm specifically interested in hearing all of Johnny's thoughts today
They're
because this is going to
getting
be
ready to pick them. It's a setup.
super interesting.
It's a setup. I'm telling you, it's a setup.
Hey, Andrea.
Our resident therapist is in the comment section.
Yeah, with her empirical thoughts. This is
So today is going to be about traditional gender wars and traditional relationships.
You know what?
Traditional relationship. Traditional being the word. Traditional. You know what, Andrea? I feel you. I feel you.
You know what? That's right. You know what? You know how Johnny is.
I love you, Andrea.
But you know, when you this is Emily's topic, and when she brought, I was like, what a great topic, because when she said traditional, I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so please explain to me, Brenda, and our audience what traditional relationship is.
A traditional relationship is one where you have a male and a female. That's number one. Number two, a traditional marriage would be a marriage between a male and a female. And specifically, I wanted to talk about the roles in traditional relationships, which is why I meant gender wars. That's the concept behind it, and how and why things have changed. We're in 2023 now, and traditional relationships are almost non-existent now. I want to know, I want the audience to tell us, like, what is going on? Like, these young people, they ain't studying marriage. These young girls ain't studying having no babies. They are not with it.
They're not with
at
it
all.
You know, and Andrea, now see, I was going to go with that. I'm so glad that she said, who decided what traditional was? And that is the problem.
That's a good solid question. When I say traditional, I'm speaking of what was considered the norm. Let's just go back 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, whatever. The case may be, traditionally speaking. And a tradition is something that's carried over from year to year, from generation to generation. And that's literally what traditional
Let
means.
me just say this to you about traditional, okay? And I'm going to talk about my own family because, I can only talk about mine. I won't be talking about yours who stole that chicken. But
I don't even understand how she just that was my great granddaddy.
Well,
and I'm sure he had a reason for it, and it wasn't a chicken, it was a possum.
Okay, but let me just say, my great granddaddy, Reverend May, had two families. Okay, this is tradition right here. See, that's why I was glad that you said, the reality of what tradition. First of all, tradition was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
People pretended that it was this and it was that, and it was one man and one woman. No, it wasn't one man and one woman. My granddaddy great granddaddy lived back in the 30s, and he had two families, and they lived right next door to each other.
So he was a pimp.
He was a pimp preacher. He was a pimp preacher because he was a reverend. And
that says a lot. I understand so much more about you now.
He was a pimp preacher. He was a reverend, and and he had two. Well, he had a wife, which was my grandmother. He had, she was the wife, but then the girlfriend had the children, and they used to play in the backyard together. So
your granddad was a pimp.
He was, and so when you're talking about the reality of it, that was the reality back in the 1930s. And I'm going to say there is no such, and I'm like you, who decide what traditional was? Because the same things that they were doing back in the 1930s, they still doing it right now.
Yeah, well, they more out with it now. The side chicks don't care about being a side chicks. Like, they got whole songs and anthems about being a side chick now. So
they don't care. And that's why you were talking about these younger people. I'm like, come on with it, because these young people look at us and our relationships, and they don't want any part of it. No part.
What percentage of young people? Because you sound like it's all young people, and it's not all young people.
Well,
Well, not all young people,
But you're
but the
saying
majority of
these
them.
young people, and
Yeah.
it makes it sound like
I'm
a
talking about
holistic statement when it's not.
But let me just say
Well,
some.
obviously, Johnny, we're not talking about every
But
single
you
person
wanna
under
you
the
there
age
you
of
go.
30.
So
You
I'm
know,
just saying. So please make sure that you say some young people.
okay, all
Not
right. Let me
When I
just
say these does not encompass everybody anyway.
okay. I
These
got
is
you.
broad.
you know,
So
she's and look at Andrew. If I wasn't married, I'd be okay being a sugar baby.
be a sugar. Me too, Andrea.
No,
The
child.
truth comes out.
No. You know, I'm already 60.
I would be good at it.
I'm 66, and the only somebody that would consider having me as a sugar baby would be when somebody wearing Depends. I'm just saying.
Now, T.D. Brown said, "I grew up and the men had more than one family."
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny, that's the point I'm going to.
But let's dig deeper into that because
But the
I agree
women
with
had
that.
more than one baby daddy.
Uh,
See, y'all want to skip
ho-
that part.
okay, let's stay focused.
Okay.
She said, I grew up and the men had more than one family, but back then, the mistress or the side chick, she knew how to stay in quote unquote her
in
place.
her lane. She knew how to stay in her lane.
She knew she was a side chick. She knew she was the mistress. She knew how to stay on her side of town. She knew how to keep that baby quiet.
She did.
Nowadays, they use it. They intentionally get themselves pregnant by the man that they know he's married. They intentionally get themselves pregnant so they can use that baby as leverage. They can use it against the man. They can bribe the man. They can threaten the man. And it's like, I miss the old garden tools. They knew how to stay,
and
stay on the rack.
We're talking about that because and by the way, it stretches all professions, especially Reverend Chicken Wang and Pork Chop and Neck Bone, and think, hey, Ricky, how you doing?
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky,
hey,
Neck
Crawford,
Bone
what's going on, man?
And Pork Chop and all of that, because I know some pastors who didn't got caught, and I ain't talking about none of the ones that live here and make it. I'm talking about the ones that are out of time. I just want to put it out there because I didn't got in trouble.
See, there again, that's where the traditional element comes in. Because automatically, when she says, "I know some pastors," I would bet you that 99% of our listening audience thought male. They did not. When she said pastors, they didn't think female and males. They simply thought men.
But you know what?
I guarantee you.
I'm going to say this. It happens probably more often with males simply because there are more males in the pulpit because, y'all got some folk out here who practice those real staunch traditional things that they're not supposed to have a woman in the pulpit kind of thing. So
and then they fill up the front pews with people who are dressed appropriately to catch the pastor's attention.
By the way, and we'll have, you know what?
Did you hear that?
Wait a minute.
We getting way off subject.
So I'm just saying.
But
we need to reel it back in. Let's reel it back in.
My point to you is about relationships. Just like Tina said, she grew up with. My uncle got about 11 children.
I'm not gonna let them dog me out today, y'all.
I'm talking about my family.
Are we dogging me?
No,
that's where it's headed.
No, it's not. I can talk about the women. Henry told me to be real careful. He said, "Baby, be real careful."
Thank you, Reginald.
He said, "Be real careful talking about
See what Reginald said.
But you got to be real careful, because there are a lot of trifling women. Emily just talked about the side chick and the kind of mess they do. They be right up there in the church.
You get your friend Brenda Wimberly. You see what she said?
Brenda, that was a good one. But that's right. They ain't got the look. But that side chick, now Henry, if you listening, he said, now the side chick really had a hard time during COVID.
But hold on now, Andrea said, Reggie, those pastors don't have to look.
No, they don't have to look.
No, I'm not. I don't know about that, Andrea. Like we gotta stop this. You know what you're doing when you dress a certain way. Quote unquote, they say in the house of the Lord, so, come as you are, quote unquote. But you made a specific attempt to wear a blouse that had your boobies showing, or wear a blouse that was way above your knee, and then you go and sit on the front row. Of course, nobody has to look, but a man is going to be a man. Is that an excuse? No, but we have to be realistic about what we're saying here. Of course,
And
if a woman is dressed scantily clad, a man is going to look because I would look, and I'm a female.
well, Brenda, this discussion is about traditional relationships and the reality of that in gender wars. And what we're talking about is those quote unquote people that that we thought that were, we thought may have been in a traditional relationship. That's not really what it's all about. I went back, and so just to rehatch that, I was talking about my granddaddy having my great granddaddy having a couple of families. And back then, even though it was more people in the church and things like that, and as Emily said, it was a certain level, and the word I'm going to look for is respect. Now,
That's right.
it's weird to even have that kind of conversation about staying in your lane and doing those kind of things.
And I'm gonna give you an example. My grandfather, I love him. He's, to me, there's nobody like my grandfather. He was the most wonderful man. He was a pastor, pastored for over 65, 70 years almost. They actually forced him to retire. I think he was 92, 90 or whatever. So anyway, my grandfather had a whole nother family before, right
Yeah,
before my grandfather. But here's the thing. I mean, my grandmother, they kept that side of the family, and my grandfather kept that part of his life completely isolated from us. And for a lot of our family members, they did not even meet what would be my other cousins, what would be my other uncles. They didn't even meet them until my grandfather's funeral. They showed up to my grandfather's funeral, and people were going up to this would have been his firstborn son, calling him my uncle's name. And he was like, I'm not, I'm not Stephen. I'm not Stephen. And that's how much they looked alike. But I'm saying that's back in the day, they did that. They knew to keep, stay in a lane. Hey, this is what I'm doing, but keep your mouth closed, stay over here, stay quiet. And I'm not going to involve my current family and what this family over here is doing. So these women now, they don't care nothing about that. Andrea
So,
said women
so
are
are you
not
saying these women today should stay in the closet?
No,
Is that
no,
what you're
no,
saying?
no. It's what we're going
No.
back to. We
What
talking
I'm
are
saying
you
you shouldn't find yourself in that position, period.
Now what Andrea said, women are not in charge of police. Now that I agree with Andrea.
We're talking about, she's referring to me when I was talking about the clothes.
You know,
no, women are not in charge of
what
policing men.
okay, what did the obituary look like? Since I won't say that I'm a professional in it, but I write a lot of obituaries. It says nothing. When there is an outside family and they have not embraced, the children, then you just acknowledge the wife. Because at that's why, and this is a whole nother show. That's why you need to be careful about who you're having these non-traditional relationships with, because when you have them and you have a child, okay, it becomes problematic when it's time to write the obituary because the wife is in charge. And so
you don't want to be listed as the special friend in the obituary.
And one of the things that I talked to my cousin about, and we were talking about traditional relationships. She was in non-traditional relationships.
Johnny,
and we talking about some of these young people, and she's like 24. They have a totally different view of what a relationship is. And it's just, no, it's not fair to the outside family. Brenda, I do, and not only do I do that, I also do genealogy, which is something that's a whole nother topic. When you do that, and then that quote unquote outside child does a DNA, and they find out who their daddy is and all of their relatives and things like that, and then it's some relatives right here in Macon. They find upstanding people and found out that that somebody in their family was playing, and they don't even want anything to do with that person, which is wrong. Humans are not designed to be monogamous.
So, Andrea, where do you think the monogamy started? Where and why and by who do you think monogamous relationships started? Where, who, and by
You
whom?
know, I would have to, and Andrea probably come back in because she's like, and delayed, and people out there, the listener audience, a lot of, when coming from the continent, which is where we come, the problem is people choose to lie and not communicate. See, that's it in a nutshell.
What?
That's right. People, and it's this men and women, they will not tell the truth. Ricky, men, women too, Ricky, they lie. A woman,
Well, they both do,
What
but
now? What did he mean by when he said men? Well, I mean, what's the context of him
the
saying
question
men?
that I asked Andrea, that's why I said we need to stay focused and stay on
she
topic
says,
because we all over the
right.
place.
She says humans were not designed to be monogamous, and so he's talking about men. And she says she think it started with
I
Christianity.
would agree.
Not-
Thank you.
yeah, so
That's
you-
where I wanted to get
So
to.
you think that Randy meant that men were not designed to be monogamous? That's
Correct.
what you're saying,
Right? Correct.
Okay, I'm just asking what.
That's what I think that is.
Okay.
And I think that in doing that, when I went to Africa, and I've gone there a couple of times to do some mission work, okay, they practice Christianity, but they also practice polygamy. Some animals are, but a lot of the animals that call themselves human beings are not. They're not monogamous. But I have to go back with Andrea, they lie. And I think if you would just be honest and tell the truth in relationships, and perhaps that is the gist of this conversation that we're having today, is about at the base
But
of
that's
all
the
of
thing.
that.
It's not the reality. Like, people are not going to be honest. I mean, you go all the way to biblical times or even before biblical times. I mean, people lie and they're never going to stop lying. So that's like a wasted conversation because people are never going to stop lying when it comes to relationships. We lie to spare our loved ones' feelings. We lie to spare our man's feelings. They lie to spare our feelings. When we put on that dress and we know it's showing every bump, roll, crack, and crevice, and we ask him, "How do my butt look big, babe?" Of course, he wants to say, "Girl, you need to take that dress off." But because he doesn't want to hurt you, he's gonna lie to you and say, "You know what? You're beautiful to
I
me."
don't lie, and they say that's why I'm single.
As probably is.
Well,
But
I think you're single because really and truly, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's because you're chauvinist. I love you, Johnny, but Johnny is a chauvinist.
They say
Yeah.
that
Traditional relations have always been a myth. It's an idea for most of us, but it's rare. I told Henry that, we were talking about it, and I was like, Henry, both of us are serial polygamists. He was like, I said serial, meaning that we weren't married married to the same person at once, but we've been married. I was married, then I married again. And I said, and what is a relationship? It is a covenant that I broke. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is.
But the covenant was based on, like Andrea said, Christianity. Andrea said, "Yes, you are a chauvinist, Johnny." But that whole covenant was based on Christianity, and I'll have to say this: that Christianity, and y'all call in because I know it's some pastors and a bunch of folks listening, but I think Christianity is what forces people to stay in unhealthy, toxic, and abusive relationships.
And whereas, what I believe is, and the reason why my relationship with Henry is so good, is the covenant that I have, even though it's lawful. You understand what I'm saying, Johnny? It's a lawful covenant. It is a different type of covenant because I have a connection to him with God. So a lot of things that I do, is out of love for him and my respect for the Most High. Because I said I made a vow before the Most High. It got nothing to do with Christianity. For me, it is that I made that vow to do this and to be that for him. And it was just certain things that I did that I'm going to continue to do.
And the truth of the matter is, you can't, it gets messy. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the best of the best. I've watched all of those shows, the polygamy shows. There's one specific show that comes on YouTube, and it's this young black guy, and he has 5 or 6 girlfriends, and they all have these powwow kumbayas where they sit around and discuss each other's feelings. And all I'm thinking the whole time is, you're just a pimp, because the reality is there's no way that one man can please 6 women. One man could not give 6 women everything that they need.
No,
It's
they cannot.
literally impossible because one person can't give more than one thing 100%.
I beg to differ. Check Iceberg Slim.
Icebergs.
I'm not going to even entertain
but
it.
you know what though, Brenda? The fact of the matter, being with one person is left and profitable. Typically, if you have that type of relationship, you tend to have more materialistically because you're working in a single mind.
Well,
But
then why don't we let's dissolve? Let's entertain the idea of dissolving what's considered the common or the traditional marriage of today. Why don't we just do away with marriage contracts and let's not go down to the courthouse? Do you think that that was a way for the city and these courts to make money to force people to
no,
come
no, no, no,
down?
no, 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 no. Because we got some trifling folk. Now, I'm going to start talking about the courthouse now.
Well, okay, well let's not, because
But no,
I get it. It's
It
the
is.
money, and when the person dies, who gets
No,
what,
well,
and
not only that,
division of assets and stuff.
it is because law, okay, even though I don't particularly care for all that stuff, but the law part is because we have to have something to prevent chaos. Because when these people are going through a separation, they're horrible. They're
Mhm.
horrible.
Yeah.
And God's law, as powerful as it is, will not keep these people from acting a fool.
Mhm.
But man's law keep them from cutting up too bad.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of where that other side comes from. So I just think it's so, I stopped believing in tradition.
Well, I mean, like the actual paper, like you're going down and you're signing your name on a dotted line. This is my official spouse. What would happen in relationships if people could actually just move away easily? Do you think, and Andrea, you can chime in here, do you all think that it would be easier and people would be happier if the concept of the traditional marriage didn't exist, in terms of signing your name on the dotted line? We're now officially one. We're one on paper. Do you think that things would be easier and relationships would last longer?
I don't. I was going to say, now they have the way it is here. Anybody can get a divorce, so it's not difficult. If two people are in the mindset that they want to get a divorce, they can just go do the paperwork and just dissolve it.
But just think about
isn't
if
that
you
why the
didn't have to.
LBGQT community was fighting for the right to be married? So because they wanted a traditional stating of that this is, we are married and we are joined as a union, and so then wasn't that their big push and fight?
By the way,
Yeah, but that's not what we talked about.
But they do that, but see the contract and all like that. I get what Emily is saying. What if we were, in an ideal situation, if we would do away with that? The problem
that's why I brought in
because
she said about doing away with the traditional.
By the way, but let me just say this to you.
So that's why I brought the other.
See, what people don't see, Andrea says marriage is a contractual agreement. It is a business transaction.
That's what I just said.
Right. That is true.
So let's do it. What if we do away with that? Do you think that relationships would function better?
No. It's not, because it's just like Brenda said, it's the emotions.
So she said the LGBT
they need legal protection.
So don't the man and the woman need the same legal protection?
They have the same thing.
What's the difference?
I do both of them. I do divorces for LBGQ and
no, I'm just saying for her statement.
I'm just telling you,
it's the same thing with a man and a woman.
It's the same thing. They do need protection. All of us need protection.
Right.
Okay. My point to you is that some people take that as an ownership, and they really shouldn't. I guess when it comes down to paperwork and stuff like that, I'm one of those real sticklers. You got to have something on paper, because you got some folk, and y'all gonna understand when Emily, they get amnesia. They ain't gonna do right.
So they do like Muddy and cut the bed in half.
Yeah. No, they don't cut the bed in half. They be accusing and acting a fool and making up stuff and things like that. If you didn't have parameters and boundaries put in place, it's some people that would just cut up. And I'm telling you that I know what I know. So when it comes to that traditional relationship, now he or she may have cheated and done everything under the sun. Okay. Until it get down to, I don't want them no more. Okay. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were talking about the traditional ones, I just, and Johnny, I didn't come in to argue with you today either. She said, don't come for her. She sent for you.
She said, don't come for me unless I send for you.
She's a great hearer, not a listener, because I was agreeing with her.
we probably a little bit behind.
So
But
let's go back to the roles, the traditional roles. That's why I named it gender wars. The traditional roles. I feel like the roles have changed. Now I want you guys to chime in and tell me what you think. I feel like now that in a lot of houses, not all of them, because Johnny always like to call numbers and statistics, but in a lot
Empirical
of
facts.
relationships here in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, 5 to 8 years, women traditionally now are making more than men. So with the woman being the breadwinner now, traditionally it used to
right,
be the man.
right.
The roles are starting to be reversed, but the man, from my experience and from what I've seen from my friends and their marriages, a lot of times the men don't want, they do not want the roles to be reversed. They don't want the roles to be changed. They want the woman to make the money, to be the breadwinner, but they want to continue in the dominant uh position in the marriage
Well, and
or
Reginald
in the
says, he
relationship.
says a lot of women are wearing the pants and running the household.
Right.
Now, you know, I feel like a lot things have changed,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes back to what is a man. Now, I don't care how much money, I'm just talking about me personal, that I make. The man still is the head of the house.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he still has that role as, we need to sit down and we need to talk and we need to do these kinds of
What
things.
makes him the head of the household?
The fact his gender,
So why is a man considered the head of the household? Just because he's a man?
just because he's a man.
And is that's
Because
Christianity? That's based on Christianity, right?
see, look, that's their opinion. Just want to make that clear. I do not. That's their opinion.
Go
To the
ahead.
answer
So what
to
is
that.
your
What is
opinion?
what is your opinion?
You full of them.
Yes, right. And let them come out, Johnny.
Aren't we?
Let them come out. Let them come out.
Aren't we all? So this question is not a like yes or no answer, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so the why part of it has to be addressed. Why is it such? Why did it change? So the reason in my living and research and gathering of empirical facts that when the responsibilities changed is when the money changed. So when these traditions were formulated back in the day, the man was the one that went out and did the work, and the woman at that time was the one that stayed at home and raised the children and prepared dinner and did all those things. But then when women started working and making their own monies, then at first it was women working in certain jobs that were making lesser money than men. So that traditional way kept going. But when women started making more money than men, the things started to change.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got women who say, my money is my money, his money is our money. So even though she might be making $100,000 a year and he might be making $40,000 a year, in her mind, they express that because men used to be the ones that took care of all the bills and all of that stuff in the days when women did not have the $100,000 salaries, they want to maintain that way of life. That you pay all you. It's a man's role to pay all the bills. It's a man's role to take care of all of the duties like that. It was back in the day when the woman did not work, when all she did was be at home. But once the woman changed from being just at home into in the workplace, she didn't want to change the tradition of that's a man's responsibility, even though she was making way more money than this guy. That's where a whole lot of the problems started in microcosm, in my opinion. When the world wars came and the men all went to fight and all that, and the
Mm-hmm.
women had to go to the factories and do the jobs that men used to do, that allowed them to be the breadwinners. See, it was the jobs and things that allowed them to be the breadwinners and to pay the bills. It wasn't just because they were male. It was because they made the money to be able to pay the bills. But then when that reversed or became more of an even plane, a lot of women, not all women, but a lot of women still wanted the same traditional needs to be met by the men when the men were not making the money that they used to make. And a lot of the jobs that women got, another guy might have gotten that. Well, all guys would have gotten that job, but once women entered their workplace, it eliminated some guys from being able to get a job because those positions that would have been for predominantly male were now being taken up by females as well. So a lot of the men that were not working at this point, it wasn't because they didn't want to work. There was no jobs available because the job slots had been filled. So now it just so happened that it was filled by women, but still the positions were filled. So now you got a bunch of guys who didn't have the ability to bring home a paycheck every week. And then, you start with the psychological beat down, and you're not a man, you're less than a man, and all of
Well,
those
you know what
things.
though, but let me just say this to you,
So-
Johnny. Brenda brought out, she said there were that, and she's talking about a controlling relationship. They're going back to that traditional thing. Um, a lot of those, some of them men don't want a wife, or they don't want to be a husband. She said they want to be a boss. They want to run around and tell you what to do. Now, I'm gonna tell you about me and money.
One more thing.
Let-
I've
let-
been knowing for ages and generations after generation where men might have been the breadwinner, but men would tell you in a heartbeat, man, she the boss. My wife run things. She might not have had a job ever in her life, but they would still say, my wife runs this house. My wife is the boss in this relationship. But you have to, if the children ask for some or some outside, you got to talk to my wife first. She ain't brought a penny into the house, but if it was a money decision to be made, there are generation after generations of men who referred those people to ask his wife, could they do this or have this or that, the other. So this narrative that men were these ogres and did not give women credit for things, it's just simply
Well,
not
now
true.
I'm just, and Johnny, you talk a lot of the absolute, but I'm just talking about what I know.
Mhm.
The majority of that boss mentality, like telling their wife what to do and stuff like that, that is truly, that is typically male. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree? Because they don't act like no husband. Some of them. And you said something. I got to put this out there. Yeah, my money is my money. His money is my money. Okay, that's how that works. Now, so
I know y'all gonna think I'm silly. I was at Waffle House the other night, I promise, and I thought it was just people my age. They had to be like 19, 18, 19, 20. These four boys were sitting in there. They looked like they were either seniors in high school or just freshmen in college, one or the other. And they were talking about stuff those young guys talk about. And these three young ladies walked in, and one of them walked up to the register, and the guy said, he was talking to her friend. And then one guy who was talking to the girl's friend said, is your name whatever? And she said, He said, excuse me, but is your name such and such? And she said, don't be asking my name unless you want to pay for my dinner. And I was sitting there going, wow, it's diseased them too in their thinking.
Well, you see, that is because and we have to do a show, and there is a lack of training that some of our young women need to have.
No,
okay?
the older ones do the same
It's
thing.
the same thing. Well,
if you think I'm pretty, then won't you pay for this?
But that's
and it don't even have to
well,
be
let
the
me
one
just
you're
tell-
talking to.
but
It
now-
could be the one standing over there. I can walk up to you, Brenda, and say, you look nice today. And then the woman in Emily's position will say, well, if you think she look nice, won't you pay for her stuff?
But we getting back on topic about tradition, and by the way, that gender war thing, we could do that for another show, Emily. Because that gender war is something serious.
We'll talk about that for weeks.
Because that gender war and the kind of
I'm
thing,
still stuck on so the only thing that makes that makes the man the head of the household is nobody's answered that question yet.
Vision.
Why is a man considered the head of the
Well, let me
household?
just
Why
say-
is he in charge? Is it simply because he has something in between his
No.
legs?
A
Like
man
I would say-
was charged to have vision for his family.
But you know what though?
so what does that mean?
Let me just say this.
I got
was-
vision for my family, so what that mean?
That don't mean, for you, not traditionally. I grew up in a home where my daddy was, we used to call daddy the boss. And it wasn't Christianity or anything, but it was because I say that I said this, I said, if any man, half the man my daddy was, I would marry him tomorrow. And I did. So I grew up with it. My big mama, honored the men in the house. You know, she fixed their plate. They always had their food when they come home. I mean, you know, but that's what I grew up with. And Reginald, it was a tradition for me. So that's why it is for me. It was a tradition. It's just what I knew. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I truly can tell sometimes when a man has been raised in a single household
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to being raised with a daddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, it's a difference
Mm-hmm.
because the way that a man typically, and it's not 100%, but the way the man typically treats you is different when he had a daddy. Because that daddy have taught him some stuff
Mm-hmm.
that you know, that he don't really learn unless he have a strong, and I know I'm gonna get in trouble on this one,
Uh-oh.
a strong male figure in the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and mamas can raise me, and you've done an excellent job
Mm-hmm.
with Jimmy. But it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
And so the answer to your question, I would just say tradition is what has done it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be tradition for all of the, you know, I would say all the women in my family,
Mm-hmm.
is that, you know, they were raised. In fact, my big mama, my grandmother, Rosie Lester May, they didn't believe in sending girls to school. They only sent the boys. So the
Mm-hmm.
boys got degrees and things like that, but none of the girls.
Emily
So
want to
don't
know
you
the
think
answer
that?
to her question, though.
Tradition.
So don't you think that's odd though?
See, Emily,
Yeah.
what I think is, I think that when the when that question arose, or when it started being challenged, was when women said, "I make more money than him. Why should he be the boss? Why is he considered the boss? Why is he considered the head when I make more money than him? When I pay all the bills, doesn't this qualify me to be the head?" I think
Mm-hmm.
that's when a lot of attitudes change. Like, why should I consider him the head of the family? He don't make but $20,000 a year. I make $300,000 a year. Why is it that I'm supposed to consider him the head of the family? So so money became the measuring stick for why somebody is the head of a family, or why somebody is the leader of a family. That's I
But
mean
let me ask
Well,
you
let's
that's a
go
this.
back to
simple answer.
2000 years ago when you know, when Jesus roamed the earth. Even going throughout the Bible is riddled with masculinity, toxic masculinity,
And
honestly.
and
And
polygamy too.
well, yeah, of course, polygamy, but like I said, going back to biblical times, they always it was always men that were put in the dominant position. So even going back to before biblical times, it seems like the man was the dominant, or as far as we know, that's what we've been taught, or that's what we've been
Right,
told.
right, right, right.
But I'm curious to know, when and why was the male considered the dominant
Well, if
species?
you just look at back in that, you know what?
Was
I
it
really,
because of his physical brute strength?
Well, I
that's
think
Because
what I
he
was
was
about to tell
physically
you.
more.
That I think that has a lot to do with
Hmm.
if I walk over here and say, "This is my land," and then another guy says, "No, this is my land." They fight it out. Whoever won the fight was going to be their land. And so then I would think it might have been a woman or two that could probably whoop a guy. But most of the guys, if a woman ran up on him and said, "I'm taking this from you," and he said, "No, you're not." So I think
Hmm.
maybe that was the beginning of some of it, just in simplicity.
Hmm.
That if it was about brute strength, then
Hmm.
who's going to be the one to take this particular plot of land, and who's going to keep it? No, those are my sheep. No, those are your sheep.
Hmm.
These are my sheep, and then you take it. How do you take it? You know what I
see
mean?
what your brother done put out there.
Oh, it says so. No one is going to actually say First Corinthians 11, 3 through 16. For the husband is the head of the wife. This has been the original teaching of Christians. So that's First Corinthians. Is that 11
And
3
people
through
and I
16?
think a lot of ladies want to go against the teachings of that is because it's of money, because they make the most money.
But
If they didn't, because it's very hard to find a woman whose husband makes $300,000 a year or $1 million a year, and they don't go to work, and they are, or either they got their little side hobby. It's hard to find them
but you
arguing
want
about
but you
who's the
want
head of
but
the house.
let me just put this out
It's the
here.
ones that making more
But Johnny,
money
but
than a
Johnny,
man that have a problem with it.
but the majority, and I'm just gonna talk about me as a woman. I like being taken care of. Okay.
And men like to
And
take care of women.
I don't
I
mind
believe
that.
that from
I
the
can take
bottom
care
of
of
my heart.
myself. I can take care of myself. I did a very good job of taking care of myself as a single woman. But I like the fact that Henry runs. Yeah, I mean he runs. Well, he think he run the house. He run it sometime when I let him. But you know, that's what. And actually, you know, even though I make a crack about it, he actually is the head of the house.
And let's get real. We're really talking about African American folk, basically.
No, we're not.
We're not.
We just talk about women, because it's the same thing. That right there crosses all over gender. I mean, all over race and everything. The dynamics of a relationship is one and the same. And I'm saying it because I see it and I live it and I work it. It's no different. It doesn't have anything to do with race or anything like that. It has.
So you think this system that we live in the United
I'm
States of
talking about
America,
marriage and traditional.
that's what I'm talking about.
Uh-uh.
Marriage and traditional thinking or new thinking in this country. You're thinking it's not dictated or has nothing to do with how this systemic. Okay, no.
Ain't got nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Because that's one thing. Now that's what that I mean, what does that have to do with the relationship?
It has everything.
I don't.
This country. Listen,
Johnny,
my sister.
Johnny,
I'm so glad that you made it. I'm glad that you graduated, educated, and lived out your dreams. But if you sit here and tell me that this country's objective for the beginning has not been to suppress the black man.
the black. Let me just tell you something about the black man. Sometimes the black man want to suppress himself.
I'm telling that's exactly what he wants the black woman to say. That's what he wants the black woman to respond to the plight of the black man in this country.
I am not going to. Let me just tell you this. Some of this nonsense that black men, and this is off topic, that put on white people.
I didn't say nothing about white people.
I'm just telling you about systemic. I just call it like I see it.
I'm saying to you have given the exact response that systemic system wanted to have from the black woman.
By the way, because there's a lot of black men out there looking for excuses for not doing what it is they need to do. Now, I do know that all of us, have oppression. I got that. We do that. But some of this stuff we have to accept ownership for. And that's what I'm talking about, Jen. I can't put that all on everybody, because at some point we need to learn too.
So who decided it was the woman's responsibility to cook?
The woman probably, but you know what? Know something, Emily? Men basically are better. But men are basically better cooks than a woman.
Well, what's considered the best chefs in the world are men.
You know why? Mm-hmm. Because most men are not afraid of breaking tradition. You know, a woman typically with us, a lot of times we season food like our mama seasoned food.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think the woman ended up being the one cooking at home, not because she just had to be the one to cook, but back in the day when it was just the men going out working and she was just sitting around home all day, she might as well cook.
She said, are we still talking about or what come first, the chicken or the egg? You know what, Brenda, it's just a discussion. I sure appreciate
She said, are we still talking about traditional marriage or what came first, the chicken or the egg? I keep saying we're trying to stay on topic. We do be all over the place.
You know, and I got that. And thank you, Brenda, for following us, because I'm ADHD and I am all over the place sometimes.
Me too.
You know, when we're like ADHD, and in fact, they didn't have none of that when I was growing up. They used to have something called a switch. And they just beat us.
Well, look, you too big for a switch now.
But you know, Emily, it's a great topic. They got, that's a great topic. And in talking about it, and you were just talking, those roles, who determine those roles, I think that's probably one of the arguments that we're having today. Mm-hmm. It's about roles. And, for example, little girls, what is it they like to do? Some little girls, if they're like in math or whatever, you have these things that they say, these are traditional things that women should do. And that's not necessarily so. It depends on your preference. Mm-hmm. So I would say a lot of things, whether we want to talk about is culture, is how to, what you grew up with, what you're comfortable with. And that determines what your outcome is going to be, is whatever your culture is. Mm-hmm. Doesn't make it right, wrong, and different. It just, so I was talking about tradition and how you were raised. Mm-hmm. I remember my big mama got really, 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 really mad at me. I know we're getting ready to go off air. Got really mad at me when I was with my ex-husband. And she said, you better go in there and fix his plate. She said, no man is allowed to go in the kitchen and fix his plate, and got on to me. And so
she was wrong. You thought she was wrong or right?
I respected my big mama, so if she told me to do it, didn't matter whether I felt it was wrong or right. I just did it. At this point, just among us friends, do you think what she was saying was wrong? Or do you I think that it was right to teach me how to respect marriage. So do you follow that advice to this day? Henry does not have to fix his plate. I make his plate. I take him coffee every morning. See, we look at you as a queen. I am a queen. That's what we look at you as.
So we're gonna end with this because we got 3 minutes left. So this was a question that went viral. It went all over Facebook, TikTok, everything. So if a guy has a female, whether they're married or not, he comes home at 3 o'clock in the morning, whether he's working or out doing whatever. The female is asleep. He asked her to wake up and fix him a sandwich. Would you, as the female, wake up and fix him a sandwich, or do you think that he should fix his own sandwich?
Fix his own sandwich.
Okay.
And even though I'm one that really wait on Henry hand and foot, but now he can't wake me up in the middle of the night. I don't care if he been sitting up there watching TV. You know, what if he was just sitting at home? No, you don't get that. Don't wake me up out of my sleep.
I would say it matters. It's according to how he asked her.
No, it ain't. No. It don't matter how he.
I said, here's my take on it. I feel like that is the most massively rude and disrespectful thing. What? Why would you come home
just to ask somebody to get up and make a
listen
sandwich?
To what I'm saying? If I'm in a full sleep,
see,
heck no. If I'm fully sleep. All the way sleep. I done put the kids to bed. That I done did everything. I done went to bed, and you were out doing whatever it was you were doing.
Now that's the question. What was he doing?
It doesn't matter.
But you just
it doesn't. Listen to what
you
I am
itemized
saying.
Everything you were doing. You did the kids.
Listen to what I'm saying. I said from the beginning, if he was out doing whatever, coming home from work, whatever, and you were already asleep in the bed, why would you wake me up to fix you something as simple as a sandwich?
I'm not going.
Why can't you fix it yourself? That's strange to me and bizarre.
You don't wake people up out of their sleep
to do something that you can do.
That you can do because number one, you got a 2-day. You don't wake me up for that. Now, if he's sick or something, that's something totally different. If he's having a crisis or something, or if he said, you know what, or he coughing and he said, please, he can't even say it. Of course I'll get up. Of course I'll do something. But just because you chose to stay your behind up, doing whatever it is you want to do, and you think you're going to wake me up out of my bed and ask me to go in there and make you a what kind of sandwich?
Fellas, if you want to stay married, do not ask your woman to make a sandwich.
Exactly.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, when fix that man a sandwich. Look here. I ain't, look at that.
He said, fix that sandwich, man. Well, Santian, Mr. Cotton.
I ain't doing no sandwich.
Well, you guys, this has been a great topic. We'll, hopefully pick this up again maybe next Monday or Monday after next.
No, let me bring a topic next Monday.
You all have an awesome
let me bring a topic next Monday.
And we will talk to y'all later.
Let it be, why do women look for unconditional love when they got so many conditions?
You've been listening to All of a Sudden. Join them every Monday evening from 5:30 to 6:30. All of a Sudden with your host, Brenda Sutton. That's every Monday. We'll see you there.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry.